Did you know that according to research, 90% of mothers report experiencing mom guilt on a regular basis? 90%. And here's what breaks my heart even more. Nearly 60% of those mothers say they feel guilty about feeling guilty. It's an endless cycle that steals your joy and keeps you trapped in a mental prison of your own making. I remember falling into bed night after night after night, swimming in my own tears because I'd snapped at my kids again. I didn't know what had happened. I'd started the day with my checklist of good mom habits, and I was doing everything I could to show my kids and the world that I was a great mom. But on the inside, I was becoming more and more hollow. Nothing seemed to fill my cup. I would be yelling at my kids or totally disconnected before lunchtime even rolled around. I was failing at the one thing that mattered the most. And the guilt, it was strangling me. Maybe you know the feeling too. Hey there, welcome to Mom2Mom Mentoring. If this is your first time with us, I am so glad you're here. And if you're a return listener, thank you for your continued support of this podcast. I'm Misty Hughes, an ICF certified transformational women's life coach. And I created this podcast because I believe that every mom deserves to experience the freedom, joy, and purpose that comes from being deeply rooted in Christ, even in the messy middle of motherhood. This podcast has the purpose of offering you the kind of mentorship that will encourage and empower you to live powerfully, lead with purpose, love with passion, and parent with presence. Here's the thing, Mom. You were not meant to do this alone. We need each other. We need the wisdom of the women who have walked the path before us, who've wrestled with the same struggles, and who have found their way to the path of peace. That's why I love bringing incredible mom mentors to you, women who will speak truth, share their stories, and remind you, you are not alone. Before we dive in, I want to invite you to the Mom2Mom Mentoring Facebook community. After you listen to today's episode, head over to the group where I'll be asking, what's the one guilt tape that plays on repeat in your mind? Let's continue this conversation together, because when we bring these things to the light, they lose their power over us. Today, I am absolutely overjoyed to welcome Dr. Laura Lee. And beloved, grab your latte and pull up a chair, because this conversation is going to meet you right where you are. Dr. Laura is a mom, a healer, a chiropractor with over 23 years of experience in prenatal and pediatric care. She is the author of Postpartum Reimagined. She's also the host of her own podcast called You Are the Mom. And she just released a new book as she sent her daughter off to college called Words from Home for the College-Bound Teen. But here's what I love most about Dr. Laura. She's the real deal. She doesn't pretend that life is perfect or that following some formula is going to make everything okay. She meets moms in the messy middle with grace, wisdom, and practical tools, giving them, if you will, a life adjustment. Today, we're going to talk about something that I've mentioned and that so many of you carry, but rarely do we actually name it out loud. Mom guilt. That overwhelming sense that you're not doing enough, you're not being enough, you're somehow failing the thing that matters the most. If you've ever felt paralyzed by guilt or wondered why you can't seem to find peace in your motherhood journey, you're going to love this conversation with Dr. Laura Lee. My prayer is by the end of our time together, you'll feel seen, encouraged, and equipped to release the lies that have been stealing your joy. So, are you ready? Take a deep breath and know you're exactly where you need to be. So, I want to start off with a little fun because we want to leave you with joy. So we're going to start with joy. So, Dr. Laura, what would you say if I asked you, and I'm asking you, what is your superpower?
My superpower, that is a good question. I have a couple.
Oh,
I think I think I can be extremely empathetic and meet people where they're at. And I think that that has been a developed superpower. I think my other superpower now, it hasn't always been, but is to lean in when things get tough, even though our initial reaction is to pull away. I think I have a little bit of a superpower, probably because it's happened a lot.
so those are great superpowers. And you said both of them, you've developed them
Mhm.
over the years.
For
So,
sure.
so you don't think they were naturally.
I think maybe there in its raw form and with wisdom and just years of experience, I've been able to utilize them for good in a much more developed way, I think.
Mm,
That just
mm.
kind of comes with a little bit of experience.
So I would love to go back in time a little bit. You weren't always this rock star, beautiful woman that is sitting across the Zoom room from me, I'm
Mhm.
sure. We all have a
Right.
journey, we all have
Yes.
a story. And you're not just a doctor,
Mhm.
you're a mom and so much more. You focus on postpartum and pediatric
Mhm.
wellness. So, what lit this spark in you for your niche and for, yeah, just how you show up to your patients?
Mhm. So when we had our daughter, I went back into practice very mildly, but then we had our son, and I really actually decided that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And I really didn't want to practice anymore, but I kept getting pulled back into practice for one reason or another. In that transition as well, our daughter was what I call more of a textbook baby. You know, she slept, you could figure her out quite easily. My son, he had a bunch of health issues. He didn't sleep. He had food allergies. He had eczema. He had terrible colic. He had reflux. I mean, he had everything that she didn't have.
Mm,
And so being back in practice and having to navigate that was very stressful. It was stressful as a mom. It was stressful as a healthcare provider. Trying to navigate it all was stressful on our marriage. But when I really surrendered to being back in practice, I just remember thinking, I'm not going to pretend that life is perfect. I'm not going to pretend that you follow this perfect recipe formula and everything's going to be okay. I'm just going to be real because my life wasn't like that. Maybe it was like that or it seemed like that with my daughter, but it was a completely different experience with my son. And what I realized is that moms need support too. So through my own journey, I just evolved and I grew and I realized that practice was so much better and so much more fun and meaningful when it wasn't all perfect. So that was a big transition. And I was just going to meet people where they were at, help them on their journey, give them information, education, and empowerment. So I just surrendered to it. I felt like God kept pulling me back into practice, even though it's not what I wanted.
You had to learn to lean into what God was doing.
Hmm.
It was obvious he was ordering your steps. You had your
Yes.
plans. Plan was to
Yes.
get home with your children. And so, as a mom who desires that,
Yes.
And it's obvious that that's not happening. You had to surrender, but what were the big wrestles of your
Oh
heart
my
maybe?
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
There were so many. There were so many because I felt like being a stay-at-home mom was what I was supposed to be doing. So I was really confused why God wasn't honoring that because that's what I felt was placed on my heart. Then why was there just such this wrestle? I think we sometimes compare ourselves to others, and that comparison can be a slippery slope. So when you're trying to get to this other place that maybe for you hasn't been attainable, or maybe that's just not your path, but we're continuing to fight for it, it
Mm,
can be confusing, right? Am I
yeah.
just, should I be fighting for this more, or should I just surrender to what I think is? So it can be very confusing.
Yeah. And I'm thinking the confusion and the conflict that you, and I'm sure a lot of moms who are working, gainfully employed outside of the home. So there's that struggle, like you said, the grass is greener over there. I should be over there. Maybe I want to be over there. But then there's also the mom who's trying to build a business. Why isn't God blessing
Yes.
this? I'm wanting to do this. I'm wanting to do this the kingdom way. And why isn't God blessing it? So we all have these spaces or pockets probably that we are wondering, why, Lord?
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
And then for so many years, I was not content. Like I felt like there were so many years where all it was a continuous wrestle, even if it was just in my own emotional state and my relationship with God. When you're at work and you're running your own business, not only are you trying to produce an income, being a good steward of that, and you have employees, and so that you're working enough for it to make a difference, but that you're home enough for it to make a difference too.
Mhm.
And then comparing yourself to others. It's all work and it's all that mental load of motherhood. Then you can easily feel defeated, just the emotional baggage that we carry that is attached to all those emotions. Is this what you're supposed to be doing? It's a
And then
lot.
some feel guilty because I'm not enjoying my kids, and others are, I feel
Yes.
guilty because I'm not home with my kids to enjoy them. And then when I'm with
Yes.
them, always busy and yada, yada, yada. So
Yes.
like all over the spectrum of
All over.
motherhood
Yes.
is there are these things that are screaming at us that it's not
Mhm.
enough. We're not doing it right. We should be doing it this way or that way. And guilt can really become crippling. Was that part of your journey? Did you struggle with guilt?
For
I'm sure.
sure. Yeah, a lot of guilt and that feeling of not being enough. And then how does it affect your relationship, not just with other people, but your own relationship with God? Because for a long time, I based everything off of a checklist. If I was checking all the boxes, then I must be doing a good job. But there wasn't a lot of fulfillment there.
Mm.
So then you feel guilty about that.
How did you recognize, oh, that's guilt? And when did you recognize that that was an issue?
I have an amazing friend in my life who was really mentoring me spiritually to help me realize that my relationship with God and my standing with God wasn't based on how good I was doing, air quotes, and if I was getting my checklist done or not. If I was meeting all this, what I would have considered like criteria for being a good mom, a good person, a good Christian, and just really working on my personal relationship with God, which I would say was really pivotal for me. And that I was missing things that God was showing me because I was too distracted making sure that I was being a good person, a good mom, a good business owner, a good chiropractor. So I think when I started to let those silent checklists fall off of my mind, heart, and emotional state is when I was able to stop feeling so guilty about everything because I was just feeling guilty about all of it.
Mhm.
And realizing that I was just enough the way I was, and that if I let God into the way I felt about things more, I think that was a really big pivotal time, is having somebody who really mentored me and really was helping me understand what the Bible was really talking about, what really God talks about in the Bible.
Okay, can I dig down in that? What did that mentorship look like? Like, were you guys studying the word together? What was going on?
Yeah, I think she really recognized that I was struggling and that I was really wrestling with all these things and just had really decreased contentment. And instead of that decreased contentment being negative, it was that God was actually trying to utilize that to be in richer relationship with Him. So to understand what his word was really saying, not like how much of the Bible did you read, or how many Bible verses do you have memorized, but are you really marinating in what that is saying to you? And what is God trying to say to you in that? Are you reading? And what is he trying to say to you in that? It was a different perspective because I had grown up a Christian. I went to Christian grade school, high school. My mom had always encouraged me, like, to confess to God the way that you're feeling about things and invite him into those spaces. But I don't think until you are in more challenging times in an adult situation with being a mom, being in a marriage, that sometimes you don't know what that means or how to utilize that. You need that continued mentorship. And I was so happy to have it because I didn't know that I needed it. It wasn't like I asked my friend, "Hey, can you mentor me? I'm really struggling." I was just fortunate enough to have her in my life where she posed questions like, what if checking off all the boxes on the checklist doesn't mean that you're in better relationship with God? And I was like, huh, I don't even know what you just said. I don't know. And I would really have to think about it. So then that, I think, led me to a series of just unraveling and unpacking a lot of my own deep wounds or things that I didn't even know were a challenge to me, just the way that I was thinking about things. I think a lot of my early years as a mom, I just, I connected doing a good job with getting everything done. There wasn't a lot of me emotionally available. So I felt
So,
guilty about that.
so I love the way that you've just kind of unpacked how you were mentored in that season, because it could have become another check the box. Okay, did you read your
For
Bible
sure.
today? Did you,
Yes.
pray today? What did you pray today?
I don't have it all figured out and I don't show up great all the time. But I think just being able to understand that a lot of it, for a lot of us, that guilt comes from control. We want to control a situation, we want to control a narrative. When we can't get it to match what we think it should, we feel guilty because we're out of control, right? Why don't we just let go of some of the control and ask God, what are you asking of me right now? Or what are you trying to invite into my life by these things not working out, or by this path not going in that direction? I think that it would be really powerful if we can let go of some of that control, and some of that guilt would fall off because maybe God is directing our steps. And if we just weren't so resistant,
Mhm.
maybe he's got something better for us than what we could have imagined.
Yeah. Okay, so there's so much wisdom in all that you said, and I'm thinking, like, if you were that mentor to another mom that, was where you were, what would you ask her, or to help get the wheels going? What would be a question that a mom
I
could start to ponder?
Yeah, I think I would ask, what is your internal dialogue? Like, what are the things that are on replay in your mind? Is it, I don't have time to get enough done? Is it, I'm, not present with my family? Is it, I'm not good enough? What are the tapes that are on constant replay quietly in your mind? In those quiet moments, what are the tapes that we have? Because they're
Good.
usually not that great.
So we've done that. So let's talk a little bit then about where we might go from there. That's really revelatory. When we've discovered that, like,
What do we do with that? Well, I would say let's start with confessing it to God.
mm,
Like, let's start. I mean, it's not a surprise to him. He knows what we're thinking. He knows what our thoughts are. But why don't we lay it before him and ask for healing of those thoughts? Because they're probably something from our past or our childhood where we didn't feel like we were enough, or we felt like something was supposed to be different than it is. But why don't we just lay that before him and ask him, can you step into this space where I'm feeling this way, and this way, and this is how I'm talking to myself? And I would never talk to a person I care about like that. So can I invite you into this space and ask for healing for me? I think that would be the first place I would encourage. It's just like, let's confess it. Let's just,
get it and bring it into the light,
yes,
right? Instead of keeping
yes,
it all inside of there in our
right.
own head. That's so
Mhm.
good. So biblical, right?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Well, because also I think too, like as a Christian, we can do all the things like, okay, let's take this negative thought. Now, how do we make it a
Oh,
positive?
yes.
But the thing is that at the root core of it, it will go so much faster. And we can have supernatural speed if we invite God into these situations. And we will get really good at it, at recognizing that, oh, I'm trying to be in the driver's seat now and
Uh-huh.
I'm not letting God direct, or I'm trying to take over. And then also with our thoughts, like that's not a kind thought to myself. That's not how God thinks of me. That's not what God
Mhm.
says about me. So let's invite him in and let's rewrite the narrative for ourselves.
Yeah, because I'm thinking even about that scripture that says, "Take every thought captive." We
Yeah.
go into works. We start to say, "Oh, I
Right.
got to do this. I got to take that thought," and we're
Yeah.
grabbing at all these thoughts all the time. When you're just saying, just simply confess that we're struggling here, Jesus,
Yes.
and can you please help me? I don't know.
Yes.
I don't even know where to begin.
I tell my patients, especially the ones that come in and they're in like a crisis. Maybe they're in a pain crisis, something's going on, but it's big, right? Like they can't move, they can't get out of bed, they can't function, like they're in dire straits. And I do say this probably has been going on for a long time, but it was probably coming to you in whispers. Maybe you had a little tweak here, but it got better. And then all of a sudden, unbeknownst to you, it escalates into this full, like it shuts you down. But I think if we reflect back, we could probably see how there were signs and symptoms of this. You just didn't know this was going to happen like this. And I think that God works like that too. Like he'll give us a whisper, he'll give us a prompt, but usually we're probably too busy to notice. And everything's a checklist. Okay, I did this. I did this. I'm doing this. Like, okay, I'm going to be okay. And it's not sometimes until we literally hit a concrete wall that we're like so beat down or worn down or emotionally spent that we can truly say, okay, I know what it means to surrender. Because I do remember my friend saying to me, why don't you just ask God into this situation? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean ask him in? He's already here. She's like, yes, but like you said, invite him, confess it to him.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay. It's so powerful, but it seems too simple.
There have been times in my own parenting journey that I've been like, Lord, I don't even know what to ask anymore. So can you tell me what I need to ask? So he does that. We can just invite him even into those for me to
Yes.
ask. It's just that continual asking and the confessing, because the reality is you probably go through the practice, you confess it, and then tomorrow is a new day. And
Right.
oops, out comes the list again, right?
Yes.
We didn't climb over that mountain in
Yes.
that 5-minute prayer with the Lord.
So I remember going through my Bible and write cue cards of like, God, I'm feeling anxious over this. Can you step into this anxiety for me? I don't know where this anxiety is coming from. I know a lot of moms feel a lot of anxiety in motherhood. Our whole brain rewires during motherhood. Hormones rewire. We have synaptic pruning that makes us even more on the alert for danger to keep our children safe. But the challenge is that it escalates to this anxiety and then this guilt that we don't have all the answers, or, oh my goodness, we let our child watch this show. There's so much noise as to like, do it this way and don't let your children do this. But just keep that dialogue open with God all day long. He is with you all day. And you say, God, I'm struggling, or whoops, I feel like I'm trying to take back, or these patterns are has such a stronghold on me.
Yeah.
I want to live in this peace that I am good enough and I am what my children need, and you are going to provide for me and you are going to show up for me. If we start reprogramming ourselves and retraining ourselves from the old patterns to the new patterns. And sometimes you have to create literally cue cards. I used to have cue cards in my card. God, show me what this means, or God, let me know how much you love me. Like my friend would write down these things for me and I would look at them because I had to learn a new language.
Oh, gosh, I love that. That is so good. And here's something else I'm thinking about. We all have the same amount of time in each day. Like, this is work that you're talking about. Like being with somebody, choosing to give yourself to the time to use the cue cards, to look at your Bible and think about what is it saying, to be in the group that
Yes.
provides mentorship. That all takes time.
Yes.
And I often hear, I don't have the time for that.
Yes.
How do you respond to that for a mom who is dealing with high anxiety?
You just have to start somewhere. You are right. We all have the same hours in a day. And there are pockets of time that we get to choose how we fill it. And sometimes we have to clear out 2 minutes. 2 minutes to read a cue card of a new language that's going to help your relationship with God and bring you to a place of freedom and peace. You
Mhm.
can find 2 minutes. I used to get into carpool early just so I could sit in quiet because that was where nobody could touch me. I could put my phone on do not disturb. The dogs weren't going to be barking at my house.
Huh?
Kids weren't in the car yet. So before I transitioned from work to picking up my kids, I used to just get in carpool early and just be.
Mm.
And there was just some key phrases like there's no comparison in God's kingdom.
Mm.
Another one was there's no competition. This is not a competition with, which mom is the best mom. But I felt like I would compare myself and compete because I needed to do everything and be everything to everybody. And that was my own, obviously, insecurities and my own control issues. So I would just say start somewhere.
For me, I was just so desperate
Yes.
to like not operate in the same operating system. It
Yes.
was just because it wasn't doing anything for me.
Right.
And so making the time was a no-brainer for me.
Yes.
It was like I'd hit that concrete wall numerous times. And so just choosing to begin that journey of making that time. And like you said,
Yes.
it starts with 2 minutes.
The thing is that your relationship with God, you can just start somewhere. It doesn't have to be in this perfect chair in the corner, quiet with a cup of tea. It could just maybe be in the carpool line for 2
Yeah.
minutes.
And he's so excited to be with
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
watch my oldest daughter when my husband left, she was 13, and probably for the next 5, 6 years, she was just lost. She knew the Lord. She would close the door to her heart, close the door
Mhm.
to her bedroom, and then she'd open it just a crack. And I would watch the Lord come and flood her with love. Like, couldn't wait to be with her. That's what He will do for you when you
Yes.
take that 1 minute or that 2 minutes, when you
Yes.
just begin to turn your heart towards Him, just a
Yes.
fraction. He's there
Yes.
waiting. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
This has just been such a rich, rich time with
Mhm.
you. And I do feel like, what was poured into you all those years ago, that you've
Mhm.
just been able to pour back out to everyone who will hear this podcast
Yes.
for the years to come, even.
Yes.
So, thank you for sitting with us
Mhm.
today and sharing from this deep, deep place of wisdom that you have cultivated and journey with the
Wow.
Lord. So,
Yes. Well,
just so
thank
good.
you for the opportunity. I just don't want another mom to have to suffer and to feel that isolation. And,
Yeah.
it really can just start with just a simple minute or two and just a little bit of awareness. Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. You're in North Dallas. You're not where we all can get to you and come and see
Right.
you, or we would probably
Yes.
be flooding your practice right now. But you've got the book, you've got your
Yes.
podcast. Now you've got
Yes.
a new book
Yes.
for moms who are sending their children off to
Yes.
college. So how do we find you, Dr. Laura?
Yes. Well, if you go to drlauralee.com, you'll find a lot of my resources there. But really, the best way is on Instagram. Just
Sure.
find me on Instagram, and you'll be able to keep up with all the amazing things that we're trying to do to just help others live a rich in relationship and yeah, with God and their families and their children.
Lee is just L-E. So
Correct. Just one E.
well, thank you so much. This has
Thank you
just
so
been like this extended prayer time. Time with you has been so rich. Oh, I hope that your heart feels a little lighter right now. Dr. Laura's wisdom about inviting God into our guilt, about letting go of those checklists and the comparison, and starting with just 2 minutes. This is the kind of truth that sets hearts free. Remember what Dr. Laura said? There's no comparison in God's kingdom. There's no competition. You don't have to be the perfect mom. You just have to be your kid's mom. And that, my friend, is something you already are. If today's conversation stirred something in you and you want to go even deeper into breaking free from this mom guilt, I encourage you to listen to episode number 82, my interview with Samantha Compton. We dive into the power that mom guilt has over us and how to break free for good. You don't have to start this year feeling like you're already behind. And if you're ready to do some deeper work with support and guidance, I would love to offer you a free 30-minute discovery call with me. In those 30 minutes, we can take time to identify those specific guilt patterns that are keeping you stuck. We might uncover something that God is inviting you into this season. Beloved, you can create one actionable step that you can take immediately to start moving towards freedom. You can find the link to schedule in the show notes or just head to the number 2, mommentoring.com/call. That's Mom2Mom Mentoring.com/call. Now, I want to leave you with this from Matthew 5:14 through 16, the Message translation. You are here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city set on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I've put you there on that hilltop on a light stand, shine. Keep open house. Be generous with your lives. By opening up to others, you'll prompt people to open up with God, this generous Father in heaven. Mama, when you shine, when you walk in the freedom and peace that God has for you, you give others permission to shine too. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to show up for yourself, for your family, and for your journey. I'll see you next week on Mom2Mom Mentoring. And hey, Mom, one last thing before we sign off this week. If this podcast has offered you encouragement, insight, I would love for you to take a moment and write a review. It helps moms who might feel alone or lost in the journey find this podcast so that they know that they are not alone. Or better yet, share the podcast with one of those mom friends of yours and offer her the encouragement and support that you're receiving from Mom2Mom Mentoring. Now, until next week, see you later.